Welcome to the ISE Content Studio here at ISE 23 in Barcelona. Our guest today is Stephen Nuttall, Head of Television America's Cup. Stephen, we have to talk about America's Cup because America's Cup is coming to Barcelona, right?
It is. The America's Cup is coming to Barcelona in 2024. We're super excited. I think if you consider a city by the ocean, which you have to host the America's Cup on the sea, it's hard to think of a better place than Barcelona as a venue, really, for a world-class sports event. And I think we're really excited to bring the Cup to Barcelona, and also I think to bring back some of the Olympic spirit to Barcelona, which everyone remembers that as an amazing event very fondly.
1992, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, and so much has changed since then.
Absolutely. For example, content production. Almost everything has changed. Huh? So what is content production? How has it developed over the past years?
Well, we have a phenomenally complicated challenge to produce the content for the America's Cup. We put more than 10 cameras onto each of the racing yachts. We have full surround sound experience from the yachts. We have 2 helicopters, 2 chase boats, and drones providing all the filming. So that's an amazing amount of firepower. And the challenge of filming the America's Cup is a really significant technological challenge because nothing is like a conventional television operation. There are no wires, so that everything is wireless. Unlike a football stadium where there's a fixed perimeter and a fixed surface, there is no fixed perimeter to an America's Cup course because we're on the open ocean. And also the ocean is not flat in the same way that grass would be flat, but it ripples and it moves because of tides. And then, of course, you have the wind, which is a whole other layer of complexity too.
Are you using cellular to communicate or to transfer, or is it satellite, or what kind of?
We use a mixture of cellular and mainly a bespoke RF network, like a matrix RF network, to make sure that we have the coverage that's required. One of the functions that we have in television is not only to produce the content that viewers see and to explain the stories of the Cup, but also to officiate the regatta. So we provide the equivalent of sailing's VAR system, if you think about that from football. Yeah. And we also have to try to make sure that the regatta runs safely. So on a typical day, there might be 2,000 or 3,000 boats in the harbour watching the racing, in addition to thousands and thousands of people watching from the shore. And we have to make sure that the pleasure craft don't get in the way of the racing, because clearly they go a lot slower than the race boats do.
Yeah. So from all this technology, you're producing a lot of content for different channels. How do you then use that content for these different channels?
Well, the whole idea with the America's Cup coverage is to make sailing as open, as accessible as it possibly can be. So in the first instance, we don't ticket the venue. So if you want to come down to the beachfront in Barcelona, anywhere between the W Hotel and the Arts Hotel, you'll be able to watch the racing taking place, and you'll be able to watch on giant screens, or you'll be able to watch on your phone or another device that you might carry with you. So we think about the coverage being on every screen that's possible. We try to work with the major free-to-air networks wherever we can, because again, we're trying to make the coverage as available as it possibly can be. And we don't obviously only think about the live window, so we create an awful lot of content for social media and for the website, which is for everything that surrounds the event. And in fact, this time round for the Cup, we're also doing a behind-the-scenes documentary series with Jimmy Chin and Elizabeth Chaivasa-Harley, who won the Oscars for Free Solo, and they're going to be telling all of the stories around the Cup and about the extraordinary lives that people lead to try and fulfill their obsession of winning the oldest international sporting trophy in that way as well.
Yeah, because I assume it's a really big challenge. I mean, having the live pictures from the event is one thing, and it creates the excitement, but keeping that up between races and between the time that the Cup is taking place.
Yeah, I mean, we're an event that happens once every 4 years, and that's what makes it different and special. And every time there's a new defender of the America's Cup, the defender gets to set the rules of the next competition, which is a unique feature. And that means that the America's Cup, every time it has a new defender, tends to make a radical step forward in technology, which allows us, even if we are the oldest international sporting competition, to remain very relevant and fresh. But it also poses challenges to make sure we continuously engage with an audience in between the competitions. So at the moment, if you go on the America's Cup social channels, you'll see lots of coverage of what's called recon footage, which is all the teams are out at the moment training and practicing in a variety of different boats, in a variety of locations around the world. And we have crews filming all of those teams as they're training and practicing right now. So if you're a sailing fan, you can follow the daily progress of every single team in the Cup through social media, through the website, and stay engaged. Now, and then of course you get to the live window, to event time. That's when the big peak in audiences comes. We need to broaden that out if we can, and social helps to do that again. And we also think the documentary series will reinforce that.
So how has the audience changed in the past years?
Well, it's grown a lot.
That's good to hear.
That's the first thing. So the last Cup, we had an audience of 942 million. That's a Nielsen number. That was the total audience for the last Cup, and that is a record. So all the way back to 1851, no one's ever watched more. In fact, there weren't many people watching on TV.
And there was no social media.
And there was very little social media in 1851. That's also true. But we broke the all-time viewership records for the Cup last time around. And we would hope, that was with an event taking place in Auckland, so the middle of the night for a European audience. We would hope that in Barcelona in 2024, we're going to substantially grow that figure again and set a new record and a new benchmark.
Cool. So there's also new needs for storytelling, different storytelling, for linear, for live, and everything. So how do you keep the engagement between the events and then throughout the whole?
Well, that's a really good question. So I think firstly, you obviously you can reach a much broader and a younger audience because of everything we do on social. I talked before about the fact that we make coverage available on all screens, not just on the television screen. So we had amazing TV audiences last time round, but the social distribution and the website distribution grew the television audience by 19%. It brought in a younger audience as a consequence, and we made sure that also we kept engagement levels really, really high. So on YouTube and Facebook, we had exceptionally high engagement rates for the content. And we did that, I think, by trying to stick to sort of proper sailing stories, I might do it that way. I mean, it told in an accessible way, but, we didn't sort of do anything that was a novelty. We tried to make people smarter about the event and more engaged with the event as it was going on, and demystify it to a degree, which I think is important.
So do you put the sailors more in focus now? In the past, was more about technology, or was the sailor always in center of storytelling?
Well, look, I think the America's Cup is a technology race. I mean, we're on a spaceship now, and actually the America's Cup has got a lot of crossover with the worlds of Formula One and with aerospace. So all the boats are made of carbon fiber. There's a huge amount of computer simulation and F1 style engineering that goes into an America's Cup yacht. You need to have the fastest boat to win the America's Cup, that's the saying, but you've also got to have the best sailors as well. So it takes both. I think if you don't have the fastest boat, maybe the best sailor will get you there. If you have the fastest boat and maybe not quite the best sailor, you're probably going to win. So it's a real balance, and it comes down to very fine margins. The tiny errors, tiny mistakes, accidents, capsizes, other things can destroy an entire campaign. And the budget for these teams is really substantial. You've got hundreds of people working for years to put a campaign together, and that can, you make one mark rounding just wrong, and you capsize the boat, your campaign's over. So it's high stakes.
Are the budgets limited like in Formula One, or are they open? I mean, with Red Bull, there's now a new big sponsor there, so I assume they bring a lot of money with them. Right?
The budgets are, there isn't a budget cap, but there are lots and lots of measures. For example, the Recon program, which are aimed at reducing costs. Yeah. So this time round for the protocol, the Recon program, not only does it generate content for social media and for the rest, as we talked about, but that resource is also shared between all of the teams. And that means that the teams don't need to send individual recon groups to follow every single other team, which is what used to happen. Yeah. There'd be a small flotilla of recon boats following everybody as they were going training. So it's a bit more efficient. There's only one group doing all of that. We're only going to put one AC-75 in the water per team this time around, which again is a cost reduction measure. So we're trying to make the contest as accessible as it possibly can be. And I think the fact that the fact that all the teams that compete in Auckland have come back to be in Barcelona is a good sign. I think the fact that we've got Alinghi back in the Cup is another good sign. And then, of course, we have the French entry too, just recently. And I think that's a good demonstration of the fact that it is accessible to a much broader range of teams.
Fascinating. So when does it all start? When does Barcelona, as you know, can watch the first
Well,
races?
I mean, you can already see some action in the harbour right now because Alinghi are based here already and they're sailing their boat in the harbour on pretty much on a daily basis. So if you go out there, if you see something that's 25 metres long, 8 stories high, and going at about 60 knots, 60 miles an hour, so 100 kilometres an hour, that will be the Alinghi boat. It's not a cargo ship. So you can see it pretty much every day. They're there. All the other teams are building their bases right now. We expect that they'll be very active in Barcelona throughout this summer, the summer of 2023. There'll be some preliminary events. And then the America's Cup itself gets going in August of 2024 and runs for about 3 months.
Fantastic. Stephen, very, very fascinating. We are looking forward to that.
Great.
And it's not only ISE is here, but also America's Cup has come to Barcelona. Thanks for being our guest today. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank you very
indeed.
much.
Thank you.